Hey, you guys, appreciate y'all waiting. Hang tight, man. We're loading up in here. I'll have the caster set. One moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in to the ZGL show tonight. We've got the Elite Division, and as you know, this is the best it's gonna get. Tonight we've got eRize Esports versus Atlantis Esports, and it's about to go down. This is our first live showing of the Elite Division, and I hope you're ready for a doozy. But first, before we get into all of that, let me go ahead and get into the introduction of the rosters. And Team 1 for Atlantis Esports, we've got Dustin, Spokes, Nico, and MOBA. Give it up for your Atlantis Esports. And their opponent, their challenger, standing in the other corner, is going to be eRize Esports. And their starting roster tonight is Zeus, TK, Mental, and Drew. The casters are getting all situated and getting set up. So I hope you all have your popcorn and your drinks ready, because we're about to have a good time tonight. Hang tight, we're getting ready to get started. Be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We're getting situated. However, let me give you those maps for tonight. We've got a red car, map 1, protocol, S&D, vault control, headed back to Hacienda for an HP. Then we're finishing up with another vault in S&D. And it's going to get really interesting. So I hope you guys are ready to make your predictions. But before we get started, let me kick it over to the caster zone so you guys can say what's up to our casters tonight, which are yours truly, Hyper and Scav.
Thank you so much, Tricky. We are so happy, so thrilled to be back on the main stage for ZGL. Checking out these two teams, two banger of a matches, the best that Zoned Out Gaming League has to offer. The best division, the Elite Division, eRize, Atlantis. I'm joined, like Tricky said, none other than the amazing and wonderful Hyperactive. Hyper, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, apart from the fact I had to step outside into a negative 14 degrees in Canada, and that is in centigrade for you lovely Americans out there who don't work on centigrade. But nonetheless, it is gonna be a brilliant fight, maybe a frosty fight as it is up north, but with eRize and Atlantis fighting it out. Well, we know a lot about eRize. We know what they're capable of. They are a staple name within this community. But it's Atlantis that I am the most curious about. This team name has started to make a small dent within the COD amateur scene. And this is something that really kind of, when you start making dents like that, I'm catching on. It's like the presence of when Old Fam first came forward. We saw their presence slowly indent themselves within the community, and the next thing you know, they're a household name. And it's the same for Atlantis. They're slowly making these little dents and to really step forward. So I'm excited for where this could go.
I'm thrilled for it, Hyper. I mean, we were just checking out the match channels. We were monitoring the players, talking to them a little bit here and there before we got into the main stage. And Atlantis Souls were ready to go, right at the match start time. They were ready to go. I mean, half an hour, they were like, all right, let's get going. Let's get the vetoes going. Let's decide what we're playing. Let's decide what team we're going to take. Atlantis Souls is eager to get into this match, and they're only so eager, in my opinion, if they feel so prepared to do it. eRize, one of the teams, Hyper and I, in our earlier days of our casting careers, had the pleasure of casting across the board, many leagues, not just Zoned Out Gaming League. Against Atlantis Souls, like you said earlier, Hyper, not necessarily that household name quite yet, but there's a reason why they are in the Elite League. So over the next couple of minutes, we'll see whether or not in this map number 1 that we get to see, it's going to be a hard point, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you viewers that don't know how that map structure goes. Who will get the upper hand? Who's going to take home the glory in week 1, game number 1 on the main stage for the Elite League?
Yeah, I tell you what's funny as well is that the hard point they've chosen of being red card is the one that the entirety of not just the amateur scene, but this goes situated within the challenges in NA, APAC, Europe, and I can't speak for Latin America because I don't deal with that area necessarily, but I know for those 3 regions, and even professional, we're seeing less and less pick of red card. It's being banned a lot more. And it goes to show that this map is on the way out. We're going to be seeing replacements coming through and take its place. But the thing about it is it's distance. It's playing with distance. It's shooting your shots from a long way. And a lot of teams don't like that because you're traveling from SUV, or sorry, the parking lot, all the way down to the stage at P4. That's 100 meters of a run, and teams hate that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, hence the reason why red card from the get-go, though, Hyper, has been incredibly uncommon, I guess you could say, as a first map pick. Never mind actually being a map pick in a series. So I'm excited to see how things go down, how things end up. Usually we'll see like a Skyline hardpoint come out first, or a Vault hardpoint as one of the first maps. But red card, I mean, goes to show that these two teams are confident to get down, dust, and dirty. And yes, I'm sure you said earlier that Ames is going to be quite apparent in a lot of these points, but so is the Jackal. There are plenty of areas, nooks, crevices, and crannies, especially towards mid, where you are going to have those CQB style matches, where you are going to have those engagements that are required to have a skilled gunman with that SMG held tightly in hand to be able to deliver and create those openings needed for those ARs to settle when they need to settle right onto those objectives, or watching over those objectives, I should say.
Yeah, and that's P5. P5 galore is SMG like heaven in place. And if this was a search and destroy scenario, then 100% we'd be seeing those SMGs coming out a lot more because that B site is situated inside of club. But P5, again, P3, another good area that you can run off the SMGs, show the prowess on it. To the SMG to catch your opponents off guard. That is always something you can do, and it's not against the rules to do so. I remember the time when we had snipers in Modern Warfare 2. We'd see occasionally snipers being pulled out on control off the start of the rounds, and then once it got deeper, they changed up to their AR or an SMG after. So these strategies are not going to be uncommon.
Well, they won't be uncommon, but whether or not they are employed is the question to be asked. And I'll tell you what, in about 1 second, off to the races these fine gentlemen go. We will get the answer if those strategies are employed. Map number 1, game number 1 for the Elite League. Atlantis Esports, eRize Esports taking it home, taking on the main stage. Who's the more skilled? We'll see right here, right now on P1.
Yeah, all about control is the first stage, and Atlantis will find the magical kingdom that they are and gain that initial control. But my famous line and favorite quotes with Hardpoint, it's all well and good grabbing P1, but you've got to be focusing for P2, which for here is the south side of the map, onto that promenade site to claim P2 just outside the soccer goal.
What of a strong start for Atlantis Esports. Start things off too in the feed. There you go. The time is still ticking. 37 seconds now in counting for the boys in red. We saw a little bit of a lineup there from eRize and trying to get a successful retake for Scraps, but it wasn't able to be successful. Now moving on over to P2. That's Zeus, number 7, waiting on the other side, right next to Spokes as well. So whether or not if Zeus can maintain this control of the objective is open is the question to be asked. And just like that, Hyper is not able to do it. Now there goes one. Atlantis Esports left back onto the point. eRize Esports, again, unfortunate loss to their name, but they do have spawns in their favor. TK getting a nice 2-piece to calm the waters. That Atlantis just put too much of a ripple, too much of the waves crashing of red onto the objective for eRize to do much more, Hyper, than get a little bit of a 10 seconds here and there on that objective, P2.
This flip from Atlantis is near to perfect. So they had that initial control. Everything was in spawn for Atlantis on Promenade. Yes, eRize has flipped it at the last 20-odd seconds, but the presence and the aggression from Atlantis has now trapped eRize in the corner. So 3 of their players are situated onto that northern side, up to that P3, ready to capture point. And now eRize, yes, they have the man advantage here. They're most likely going to make a good break if they can get the break coming through, because NiKo is not going to allow it to unfold. And what would look to be a strong eRize P3 attack, oh, it's just crumbled under them.
Yeah, eRize sending one rotate. That was TK, Atlantis Esports. That was Cinco and NiKo. Oh, completely sandwiching them. Not allowing any successful rotation to go through, but just like that, 3 off. Boys in blue starting to get their accolades in. Starting to pick up the pace here as Mental find a 3 streak to his name. Now Atlantis, taste of your own medicine, if you will. The last 20 seconds here on P3. Will Atlantis objectively, retake that objective as they've been able to do it so far in this map? Or will Mental win this 1v1? No. He's not able to do it. Now, another reinforcement has been sent down. eRize will win scraps to their name. A decent hold towards the end there. Great break. But again, Atlantis Esports starting off strong on every one of these points so far.
They're definitely starting strong, but it's definitely momentum that's kept them going. A good mindset of rotating early, not leaving themselves trapped onto that point. And realistically, look at NiKo, 11-6 right now, feeling confident with himself, able to carry himself and carry his team on his back. That's going to feel good when you have a player who's running out. But collectively as well, I'd say battle-wise, when it comes to those gunfights, both sides are even. It is just the early advantage from Atlantis is showing the scoreline to be so much in their favor.
Yeah, I was going to say this hill too, Hyper. It very much so has the capability of being a money hill just because you can hide under the stage there the entire time and just hold a Jackal in hand. Atlantis Esports started off with control onto that hill, and we already see the taunting from Zeus starting to feel himself as well. But eRize on that hard point was able to break through and sit under the stage, get that much needed time back, and look at what we see here. Another opening, but this time Hyper, the feed and the point is not red. eRize Esports starting things off onto the objective. NiKo finding one, Drew finding another though to pick up scraps here onto the point. There's a 3-piece for Mental in the feed. Zeus picking up the 4th. All 4 off for Atlantis Esports, left scratching their heads as eRize Esports have awoken the inner beast from within these guys.
Mental, you pointed out that 3 spree. Well, he was on a 7 streak in general, 13-11. He's got the Hellstorm in his back pocket, and oh, Drew, okay, put it away. We've seen what you're capable of, and eRize have turned the wick to the max, and they have brought this back. Atlantis have only just been able to gain some points off the last 2 hills. Only just been able to get some point. eRize, they've made a comeback of a dream.
Atlantis Esports might have been ready to go, Hyper. Might have been ready to get this thing started as soon as possible. And eRize, a little lackluster at first, but now have officially warmed up, gone into that 4-wheel drive, kicked it to the point where they're able to climb any mountain that Atlantis has put up in front of them. Now we're back to P1, back to the basics. And I'll tell you what, Hyper, the scoreline does seem to be the same. 117-109, pretty darn even from when we first had this rotation. Guns are flinging, guns ablazing, bodies are dropping right now. There's 3 off in the feed. eRize Esports send to the respawn screens, but now pushing up Zeus, the guy who was taunting himself, finds one, a wall bang. Still control going on over to Atlantis Esports. 2 in the feed though for eRize. NiKo trying to pick up the pace as well. Still though, regardless of the fact, Atlantis Esports had some control there early hill, but eRize able to clean up shop, get those last few seconds of scraps, and not let go any trades unanswered.
I tell you what I've noticed from here, Atlantis just seem to work well at distance. They're able to pick their shots from afar, and it shows. P1, P2, both zones that are out in the open. You don't play too much CQB, and then it came to that P3. We went indoors. Guess who really took control? It was eRize. They found that confidence of a SMG scenario, and then we go to P4. that came a bit 50-50, you know. Atlantis was able to get on because of the upstairs, but of course, P4 has that downstairs compartment, and eRize were controlling it. They felt confident. And P5, who controlled it nearly for a full hill, eRize
Oh,
again.
TK.
So
Oh, TK. Oh my
show.
gosh. Putting on a show, but fortunately only for a couple of seconds of scraps. I'm Spokes yet again. They got this on lockdown, Hyper. Atlantis Esports beating eRize over to the rotation for P3. But now you see the wall of blue, much more confident this time around. Trying to infiltrate onto the point, not much luck. Bodies are flying, still favoring red into the feed. Zeus taunting earlier. Can't taunt this time, my friend. He gets dropped to the ground. Back to the respawn screens they go. Successful trophy place down. Spokes just soaking up that hill time right now as eRize struggling to make any breaks onto the hill. Got a little too greedy there. Here it comes, Hyper. The cavalry of blue. They're winning in the feed, but still Nico not doing the best job of holding that hill.
Zeus laid there. Zeus just slid in, straight
There
the
it is.
pose, and
There's the
took
break.
the point away. And this is where eRize find their bread and butter, the confidence within that CQB. And TK absolutely clearing off the site. But look at the swarm, look at the blue. They're happy, they're confident. And eRize, well, they can't tie it up just... Yeah, they could tie it up here. But they need a good rotation over to P4.
Yeah, they can take the lead slightly there, Hyper. Here it is, the 1v1 that I was talking about. Spokes able to win that rotation, but not win the gunfight. A rotation can mean the world if you have spawns, but if you don't win the additional gunfight, the time is still going to go over to the opposing team. Drew, not much luck this time from sitting under stage. He's going to get taken out of the process. Zeus on a spree of 6 and counting. This is what you're saying, Hyper. The AR's coming to shine, coming alive here as he's checking these cross angles, but still, Atlantis Esports having control over that hill. eRize has made that call to action about mid-map, and Atlantis, I gotta say, doing a fantastic job of maintaining, holding their own, and not falling flat, not choking as a result. Still, from stage, Nico being surrounded by blue, but he's able to do well, and that's not just himself, ladies and gents. That's Atlantis Esports with their Amez, knowing where to look, knowing to follow their calms, and ultimately, just like Cinco has done right there, able to pick up one and allow the last few seconds of scraps to hit Atlantis Esports as they trickle past 200 points.
Cinco was playing the barrier, the doorman to the next point, and that slowed eRize down, or what should have slowed them down, but in turn, eRize, they made a beautiful break. They have the whole of P5 swarms, but they've allowed Atlantis to sneak in from behind, and this could be the danger that comes in. TK isn't able to flick himself around, and Atlantis, they found themselves back on point. They're in the 200s, and they can win it here. They can take it home, but only by a few margins and a cookie crumb.
Oh, and the Hellstorm comes in as well. 3 off right now for Atlantis Esports. eRize, you got to hold this whole hill if you don't even want to get past that 200-point mark. I'm sure Atlantis Esports, they can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It wasn't so successful mid-map as eRize made that comeback, but now we start to see it come to fruition. eRize doing a great job right now winning their gunfights. Not much diversity in the feed just yet, but there it is. 3 off right now. Atlantis Esports getting slowly but surely to that 250-point mark as eRize in a state of panic right now. They're at 230. It'll be at 236 by the time rotation's over. eRize, you got to be near perfect as we move on over to the next point. And what do you know? It's all going to end here. P1, the final rotation, hopefully for Atlantis. And eRize holding on by a needle, by a thread to keep this map alive. And a nice 2-piece in the feed, Hyper, to get that started.
Yeah, it's got to be perfect from eRize, and at the moment, I tell you what, it is perfect as of now. They want to force this over to the second hard point. They want to push it there. Zeus left alone in the outside, and when you need to clutch, this is the exact moment to do so. They've allowed a break to come in, and now comes Atlantis able to swarm the point. They are going to chuck bodies, but they get broken with 5 seconds. 5 points in just for Atlantis to take, and that could mean 1 break. 200 for eRize, so they could force this to the next point. They've got an opportunity too to take this home.
All gonna boil down this to the Hyper every second, every single second. It doesn't matter. It has to go towards the boys in blue if they have any chance of winning this. But would it be 2 we go? Blue wins a rotation. 2 in the feed though for Atlantis Esports. Can it be a third? Zeus winning on the other side. He still has a control on the objective. Cinco will make mental fall, and Zeus getting a little distracted there will be caught lacking as well. Nico sitting onto the point. Nico is anchoring, and Nico will win the map number 1 for Atlantis Esports after couple of punches thrown back from eRize. Atlantis Esports doing a great job cleaning up shop, packing up their briefcase, and leaving the business meeting because they just took care of it themselves.
Brilliant work when push comes to shove, when eRize was starting to mount the pressure. There's one of two ways your mindsets can go. One is you start to crumble, you start to let those gaps come through, which Atlantis a little bit did, but they reined it in enough. They knew, okay, we've made our good attack, we've made some good presence onto that P1 hill. Now we've just got to recoup, and we could see, I believe it was Dustin who'd rotated to the promenade section of that P2 site and went, we are going to claim control here. So when eRize has that initial presence onto the P2, we can swarm in with better spawns. But in doing so, they were split 2 onto the promenade, 2 up by stairs, and that once they started to take the players off, step foot on, it drew all the players out so the stairs people could get those final kills, and the point was there to finish it off. And it was done brilliantly, and I think you can see it in the live chat in the middle. They thrive under pressure.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more, Hyper. And again, admirable performance from both sides of the spectrum, but especially from Atlantis. I mean, eRize, you saw mid-map, mid-rotation there. They were throwing some punches, had nearly 2.5 hills almost uncontested by Atlantis, and that's got to be a tough feeling, especially given the fact that you started off the map strong. You started off throwing punches, heavy punches, and to many people thought that one of them could have been the knockout punch to close the map early, to put Atlantis in a position of comfort. But eRize, again, rising up to the occasion, throwing a couple back, and Atlantis thinking to themselves, okay, we've stumbled a little bit. This is why we have the padding. This is why we are able to do so well in those rotations and get that 1.5 of padding. Now it's time to take things seriously. Now it's time to flip a switch, change of strategy, and win those gunfights. Hyper Atlantis, I mean, throughout the entirety of the map, was able to get a couple, trades here, then the other. There weren't really any question marks. There were a couple of times, yes, where eRize could get 3 and even 4 off, and those, I will say, were absolutely disgusting moments, especially from Zeus getting a 2-piece. Ames quickly switching to his pistol and cleaning up shop onto the objective. But overall, if you kind of would see how the bar chart would go, like a stat line, you'll tend to see that the engagements, for the most part, will be met with trades for Atlantis, and that is the key to success, because you get a trade. The opening that was made from the original kill that happened is now at least closed or kind of blundered a little bit. So, wow, what a fantastic map number 1. And I was stoked to see these two teams play.
Yeah, and Protocol is a very, how to describe Protocol? A unique map, because it doesn't follow any traditional map making. Yes, it's got 3 lanes, but those 3 lanes has an underground, and it just, every form of convention you think it would have, throw it out the window. It does not exist in this game. So off to the races these fine gentlemen go. eRize will be the ones attacking first, and they're immediately putting that bomb to B and taking that long risky route, which has led to the death.
Yeah, subtle correction here. It is obviously search and destroy. I apologize. I am excited to see control though in our next map, but a little different from control. Search and destroy. You got to play for picks right now. You got to play for that strategy. You got to know when to be aggressive and when not to be. And right now, bomb being planted was a perfect amount of aggression that eRize needs to practice here. 25 seconds left and counting. Zeus getting a nice pick. Really just telling Atlantis, know your place. Stay off the objective. There's 2 to his name with the aim is again. This guy, the 2-piece king, will keep on cooking as he gets another headshot to the face. Might as well put bacon on the stove because he's frying us up. A 3-piece to end round number 1.
I love what Atlantis tried to do. I think that, I can't remember who that was, but one of them even went down to the beach to try and come up from heli to try and take out Zeus, but unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time. Zeus read it like a book. I thought originally when eRize was pushing forward, that bomb was not going down, and they were able to pull it off, but the problem was they weren't able to set themselves up. And that's how Atlantis were able to push in and push into dominant positions. So going through Arch, have that elbow control and helicopter control.
I agree with you more now. New round though, new chapter. Whether or not if eRize keeps writing it, well, that's for Atlantis to answer. Ball is in their court. Drew leading the charge for eRize. Boys in blue finding one pick. Dustin getting a trade at that mental again though, saying no, I will not be at that life deficit. 3-2 for Atlantis. Nevertheless, the bomb will go down though. Nico the upper hand here. Cinco a little too over aggressive though, will allow this to be a great situation for eRize. 2v1 situation. They're still utilizing that buddy system as well, Hyper. Fantastic for eRize, realizing that no challenge is too easy. No situation is one to be taken lightly. eRize sniffing out the last player from Atlantis, getting that bomb defused and parading on through with a round number 2 win.
Zeus 5-0 to kick off this game. He is
early
on fire, and that's exactly what eRize needs to get this game rolling. But in terms of the way, again, we're seeing this B push come into effect. We're seeing how confident they are to just force their way in, get that bomb down, get it going, and then spread out from there. So it is very, very important that they have that presence early on. And I want to correct myself because I realized that I thought Atlantis was originally defending. It turns out eRize are doing everything perfect at the moment.
They are doing everything by the moment and by the book, if you will, and my gosh. That's unfortunate. There is mental just fallen from, looks like a car crash almost, but it was an explosion. So now Bomb is sort of just sitting in HQ, and it would be great if you were on offense, but you're on defense, eRize, and that is not a good position to have the Bomb sitting, because, I mean, Atlantis can just sit there. We talk about this map in Hardpoint. It's the money hill. It's also the money objective if you're playing this search and destroy style, because it's incredibly hard to break through. Now Nico waiting on the other side will be the one to do it, to not allow that break to go through. Unfortunately, he'll get that COD timing, but shots will go through. Nobody has grabbed the bomb yet, surprisingly, for eRize. Thus, the many opportunities they've had. Time is ticking, though. Not so long at the bomb plant. 1v1 situation. Nico, a little bit of a questionable rotation will allow eRize to take advantage and eat up all of that.
You said why not pick it up, and the simple answer is you've got plenty of time on the board. You know the other two are gonna want to try and find where this bomb is. They know that there is some information that is down in HQ. Natural instinct is they're gonna push it. They're gonna deny you to get that bomb plant and try and catch you out during a bomb plant. So hold tight. As soon as the bomb ticks down to the last 20 seconds, then you can do a plant and cover to fend it off.
Like
so that's
what
why they're doing it like that. But as you can see, the game has temporarily ended. We will be getting back into it into a short bit, but off the get-go, eRize, you can't fault what they're doing.
No, you can't fault what they're doing at all, and it's... Oh, okay. Well, that scared me a little bit there. Excuse me. But what I will say is that, yeah, eRize, I mean, after I'm not even going to say devastating, but after a tough loss in that hard point, especially knowing, you know, there's one thing to just lose all and kind of get completely dominated throughout the series, throughout the map, but it's another thing when you really push, you really try to get to that point where you win the map and you still fall short anyway, sort of throwing all those resources at it and still not getting the outcome you deserve. Unfortunately for eRize, it didn't go their way, but they come into this hard point, or this search and destroy, excuse me, and they coming out with the punches. Fresh, clean slate, positive mindset, and the energy was there. It didn't seem like they had, you know, any difference in their gameplay as a result of the hard point. It's just another day in the office for these guys over at eRize. And I'll tell you what, as I recover from that jump scare of the subscription, which I'm sure ZGL does appreciate, we're going to take a little bit of a quick break as we try to coordinate these. I'm sure you might have heard DCs that have been consistently happening throughout the servers, as it is very cold in the Northeast. So not surprising at any way. But whether or not if eRize can keep on going, keep on dominating the search and destroy, or is this DC just enough to ice the boys in blues over at eRize? We'll find out right after this break.
Mr. Megatron. The others.
Hey everybody, hang on out there. We're restoring the streaks and all of that stuff. They're in round number 4, 3-0. So hang tight as we get the lobby set up. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we were expected to go back to a 3-0. Well, these guys, they don't like to wait. They don't like to hold up. They are going 4-0, and I believe they've also flipped sides as well to make matters worse. Or the Sprees? Yes, they've flipped over. So it is eRize on the Atlantis on the left. Scab, you're still here. You're still pumped. We're still getting a great match in front of us.
Oh, I'll tell you what, it's a great match for eRize. He's 7.5 to defuse. And I don't know. He seems a bit indecisive right now, just sort of rotating around in circles, waiting for someone to chaw him. But at the end of the day, Hyper, he's only got half the time left to get that defuse down. There it is. He drops down, and Zeus just puppy guarding the bomb, and ultimately able to do it well with the Amez held tightly in hand. Congrats.
Yeah, another strong performance, and another locking it down, getting that plant over to that B side, and it's surprising to see a lot of the teams going towards B. We've seen quite consistently in the past that it is a very A-sided map. Everyone goes A, they drop down, they go fight in the HQ, but we're not seeing those fights anymore. We're seeing a lot more strategies open up on this B side, and in doing so, more and more gameplay has gone there, and at the moment, 4-0, 5-0, whatever the scoreline truly is, it's all in favor of eRize. As they, once again, start to make their presence and try and push towards that B side.
So, Atlantis pushing over to B. And they're that bomb plan down. Doing well. And Nico doing a fantastic job of isolating Zeus sort of in that corner, that back artillery. There is where Zeus likes to hit, hang out the most and just sort of hit that heady. There we go. Now we're talking. Appreciate that, producer. Zeus still on the feed. eRize Esports doing a fantastic job of just chugging along through despite that bomb plant going down. A 1v2 situation. Now it's a 1v1 as Nico finds one, and at the end of the day, Mental finds Nico. So there goes the bomb defuse going on through. eRize Esports again, 5-0 map point, and we see I think another DQ, excuse me, goes on to the side of Atlantis. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I don't know if it's an actual DQ or rage quit. I would say I don't think that's what it is though.
Whatever it is, I believe this is the
Oh, that is the map. Okay.
Yeah, they decided to skip ahead and do one, but I want to make point and make it clear. 10 streak for 10.
Uncontested.
Uncontested, no deaths. He finally gets taken out on the very last one. So he's 10-1, which to do that match is it's still a 10 KD. You would never see that on the CDL level. That is huge.
Especially coming off of a map 1 loss. And a defeating one at that, you losing 250 to about 215, and then you just go into the search and destroy. You have a break because of the DQ, and you still are frying. You're at a point where you're isolated by the artillery barrages in your own spawn, and you somehow still make it out alive. Bravo to Zeus. I mean, he's the MVP right now for that map, no question about it. But as with a lot of the modes, we say they're all unique in their own way. Search and destroy. Yes, obviously, at the end of the day, there is that same replication of action CQB. The ARs, especially on Protocol, get to have a field day, but it is just that. Search and destroy. You only get 1 life per round. Now we're moving on into a different mode. It's control. 30 lives, both sides of the spectrum, 2 objectives to capture. And last time we went in the respawns, it was primarily dominated by Atlantis. Yes, eRize had a couple of breaks here and there, and they're able to get 3-4 off the feed and complete squad wipe, but at the end of the day, judging from map 1, Atlantis clearly had the upper hand when it comes to those engagements. So we move on over to that control Hyper. What are we thinking for predictions?
Well, taking into account, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it is a Hacienda control. I say that with an element of question mark because my memory is like a goldfish at times. But if it is, even if it's Volt, it's coming down to that range. We saw the range gunfight, which favored the Atlantis side. They felt confident when they could bring out their ARs, they could shoot from distances, and they felt comfortable. As soon as you got to CQB, as soon as you got the SMGs out, which is something that eRize took advantage of, forced an open space and made it close quarters in that protocol, they will try and find the same because the whole of the upper floor on Hacienda is a perfect playground for SMGs to come alive. But as soon as you take the steps outside, as soon as you do have the sight lines going into that very awkward A site, which is out in the open, pushed a little bit towards the defender's side, and then you push out to the B side, it's all massively open, and that allows those ARs to really flourish. But again, eRize know how to close down those gaps. They've learnt the way of the Atlantis sightline, and in doing so, just close that gap, make it their own.
Yeah, and let's take a look at, again, the maps and modes for the rest of this series. It's a best of 5, and we do have a vault control following that protocol, search and destroy. So as you were saying earlier, Hyper, there are plenty of opportunities for the Jackal players to have their sweet, sweet, heavenly SMG, close encounter battles, especially on that A objective. But when push comes to shove, you got top art is a field day for the Amez players as well. So it could go either way, Hyper. Either way, the pendulum could swing. But again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. My prediction, I think Atlantis is going to take this 3-2.
Oh, he's putting numbers down as well, and knowing your track record is spotty. But I don't think it's going to be that confident. I think there's going to be one good break that gets the attack, and especially being Volt, the most oldest of the maps. It is the favorite amongst everybody. I honestly think it's going to be 3-1, and it's going eRize. I think they found a way to counter the control, that CQB, the range, and force it into CQB. But this is, of course, a 3-1 on control. I don't think that's going to be the score series because I would love to see this go to the bittersweet end. And I tell you what, off to the races, these fine go. Let's get on the road.
These two players only have a couple of seconds to marinate on the fact that Hyper really just said Atlantis falling onto this map number 3. They got nothing to do but prove him wrong, as Dustin will go ahead and do it along with the rest of the boys in red. 2 ticks have already been completed. Here comes the third. eRize not even doing much to lift them. Any sort of defense onto that A, immediately captured right now. 26-24 in the lives as well. Pay attention to that, ladies and gentlemen, as the round progresses. Immediately off the rip, though, 2 minutes of time has been added to Atlantis. But hey, I will say though, eRize a bit lackluster over to A. They're not translating that over to B. They're starting to dominate now. Starting to win these gunfights where they're most needed, trying to prevent that spawn trap from Atlantis from going on through as well. Top art retreating back in that guerrilla warfare tactic when he needs to. And as a result, Hyper, Atlantis Esports causing a little bit of mayhem, and Dustin might be a problem too if he kind of slivers through these spawns along with at the end of the day, Hyper, eRize win those gunfights when they matter most so far.
But you kind of nailed it on your head as they go all four off. eRize have completely wiped Atlantis, and now they can start the spawn trap. But you're right thing. The A site is a lot easier to attack. You can gain that control, you can get the point, lock it down if you get a good wipe. Take 3 off, bang, control, done. It's going to be, it's that wide open site. It's one side of the map. And look at the way in spawn. We just saw them spawn in. They're spawning north. And in doing so, that makes it so much easier to force reinforcements back to that point. But right now, it's all about is the thorn in the rear end. If he sits up in that balcony, he's got sightline to B. You got, again, number 5 of Zeus, sightline to B. You've got to take them out. These guys are going to really screw you over.
I mean, this is an assembly line right now, Hyper, that we're seeing a class act. eRize Esports. Whenever Atlantis gets a kill, eRize picks it up right away, or doesn't even give him that opportunity to pick up the trade. Like an absolute assembly line where eRize just spots out Atlantis, absolutely lasers him with that SMG or that AR, what have you. And at the end of the day, look at the timer on the top. 18 seconds left. eRize double the lives right now against Atlantis. And there's nothing else you can really do right now, Hyper, if you're Atlantis, and just shrug your shoulders and sort of just sit there blankly staring at your screen and hoping to dear God this energy doesn't translate on over to round number 2.
I'll tell you what.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
It's all from the split position. One top trophy or balcony, whichever you name it as. One by art, having that sight line. And yeah, okay, top trophy / balcony. Drew wasn't necessarily getting kills, but he's feeding information for his team, who were able to push inside of P1 towards that A and just recover that area. As the St. Clair Esports or St. Clair University coach said to me, you've got to vision this map into layers, right? You have the top section, your middle section, and your lower section. When you're going for B, you have to control the top and middle to gain that control. And I tell you what, eRize were in that control and were defending it like gods.
Zeus opening things up again with that Amez. No stranger to being a god with it, as Zeus himself is a god. 3 off right now to lead off round number 2 for eRize. And they're going for gold, Hyper. They're going for broke. They're hitting B right off the bat, but Nico and Cinco forcing eRize to pump the brakes a little bit here, as Drew last alive will try to fend for his life here, and a little bit of concern here that Van has not been exploded yet, so it could very well do that and completely kill him off site. TK doing a great job though, anchoring in those back spawns of Atlantis. But still, Zeus, mental, that objective tick has gone through. B is about to be completed, and whether or not if it will be, it will not. So just in time, the team kill will go through. Atlantis Esports ultimately denying that full take onto B, but not before the damage has been done, Hyper.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't. And look at how eRize, they initially, just that little tap onto B to bring it to a smidgen away. And that's forced rotations from Atlantis to re-go back to B when the pressure is clearly on A. This is a mind, I can't think of the other word except for the F-bomb, but it's messing them up. It's hugely putting Atlantis in this difficult situation. And eRize, all they have to do now is one good break, but you have to look at Dustin. Dustin's at the rear. Mental. He knows, but God, timing once again goes the wrong way. And Dustin now has free roam and can again start spinning up that little blender and get some spawn traps coming his way.
I know that the title cards aren't always, like, incredibly accurate with that KD, but take a look at the reflection right now, just from what we can see. Atlantis Esports and eRize Esports, just look at that reflection in the KDs. eRize, every single player right now, Hyper, is going positive, and you go over to Atlantis, only one. It seems to even be getting close to hitting that positive KD. So this is an accurate reflection of why, yes, COD kills aren't everything, but at the end of the day, if you can get the kills or at least have somebody getting the kills that they need to get, it is a recipe for success. Just looking at those scorecards without even seeing the gameplay, you immediately know who has the upper hand in this map.
Well, at the moment, eRize getting that attacking round, that critical point there. Keeping my prediction.
Oh, that was disgusting.
Good. And yeah, TK coming alive and.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, chill, man, chill.
Well,
Angles I know your thing.
His I don't know what that was. So Atlanta's dolphin dive, and he got killed. He got headshotted by TK mid dolphin dive, Hyper. That is incredibly impressive, and he also has a 3 KD to reflect that as well. So last map it was Zeus MVP for eRize. This map, I think it's going to go to TK if things keep going their way. But here it is. Atlantis standing down the barrel of a map 3 loss and a series point if they can't win this. It all boils down to this.
Good initial progression, able to find the gap, take out that critical connector player. Now you can start stacking, get some progression going, and the first tick done. That, in terms of a B attack off the get-go, is a great start. Even though they will lose all their players, they feel they've been defeated. No, That is great. You got one tick off the board, and now you can start to refocus back onto A, or go for another cheeky push as Atlantis decides to play risk and reward.
Yeah, and they're playing risk and reward, and I'll tell you right now, Hyper might as well head on over. Okay, well, I was gonna say might as well head on the casino because your luck is pretty good if you're Atlantis, but immediately my words are eaten as now Atlantis left kind of scrambling in their own spawn. Dustin, huge 1v1 to win, but he's not able to do it. Drew will pull out the pistol and do the dirty deed himself. 57 seconds left in counting. You got to tick on A and B, but ladies and gents, the name of the game is get a full tick on one of the objectives to add time to your name, and yet again, eRize getting right back into that rhythm that they had in these first 2 rounds. The Atlantis coming out strong, coming out swinging, but eRize, you know, really trying to put this away with that knockout punch. Cinco, that's a good kill too, because TK has been on a roll, and denying him that spawn trap is a massive recipe for success. And look at the bottom left corner of your screen, that alley over towards B has opened up completely, and especially now given that TK has been completely obliterated off top art. Van's already been exploded, so it won't explode again. What you need for that progression, that full tick to hit B.
You need to clear these guys off. You need to be able to get 4 off. You can able to give yourself one last run, and at this point in time, this is already the clock down 20 seconds.
Yeah.
eRize know that the pressure is only going to go B, so they've got to defend, yes, a bit of A, but their main focus will
he
be
didn't see.
Keep an eye on B, but Nico able to stay alive just a little longer. Van blows up. He's nearly dead. Now it's contested, so now comes the question of, can you get that player off? No, can't do it. Starts to get cleared. 30 seconds left on the clock, and now Atlantis want to force their way in, and the last opportunity is rush A.
Yeah, last ditch effort, last bit of hope. However, we've seen crazier things happen, so I'm not putting down the chips yet for Atlantis taking this one home. It's gonna boil down to Nico, but still he himself's not able to do much. Justin finding an opening, but he's not able to touch the point in time. eRize Esports, both of us being proved wrong here. You, my friend Hyper, have gotten the prediction a bit closer than me. 3-0 on this control, and what was a very promising respawn hardpoint for Atlantis, and for me, forecasting the future of this control has turned into eRize, taking it, turning the tables, turning the tide, and turning the KDs. I mean, goodness gracious. Fantastic job. Brilliant from eRize, especially TK as well towards mid-map. All of the guys too, Drew, Mental, Zeus, they're all doing a fantastic job. Atlantis, a tough position to be in if I were to be honest with you.
It is. It's very hard to see yourself taking that L with a 3-0. It doesn't feel confident, but you have to take the positives out of it. Their push, so for the final round, that push onto B, the first attack was brilliant. They decided to run that risk for going for it again, but the problem is when they were pushed off, immediately eRize had started to progress forward on the map. So that push, they got themselves back on point, but those players already situated behind. Zero control over that middle section. That I wouldn't say zero, but there was a lack of control, and which allowed eRize to then swoop around and come from the rear. And that's the difference when we saw the pressure and that strategy being used on the second round, when we saw the attacking win for eRize. Yes, they went for that early push. It worked. They sent one player to cover that northern channel, but they went back to strategy. They went for mid. They sent one person to go down south to cover any long rotations. They were able to capture anybody who did rotate through, which I think one did. And then they started to clean up that one person that forced the rotation to go to mid. And in doing so, the person who went to north and won his fight, got himself on point, forces now the rotation for Atlantis to go back north. And now you have this kind of back and forth to cover both points because a split starts to come through. So eRize, yes, it seems like they were playing this big brain game, but realistically, it's a very simplistic strat. Get the harder point, get one tick going, send one player to force rotations to essentially the most critical sites, and then you keep the pressure going on the easy side and allow yourself to have more time.
eRize have, again, faced adversity in the beginning of the series, and now it's completely changed. We get a sweep on search and destroy, or near perfect search and destroy. And then you move on over to control, same ordeal. Atlantis is crumbling right now, and that's not lack for a better term. That is the only term we can use to describe Atlantis right now, and it is an unfortunate reality. But using the time that we're spending right now conversing and discussing what went wrong with them, they can't be doing that. They need to go through and look at what they have next, which is the control, or excuse me, which is the hard point on Hacienda. Here it is, Hyper. I know you were anticipating it coming. There it is, Hacienda hard point, and it'll end on a vault, search, and destroy if Atlantis forces that. But Hacienda hard point, I mean, not anything like red card. The only thing that stays different, in my opinion, Hyper, is the mode itself. But if it's not, then it is going to be a lot of AMIs is going to be pulled out, especially for that P1. Realistically, I don't think I've ever seen anybody go through with more than 40 seconds of P1, and even that's a bit of a stretch. So if you ask me, Hyper, Atlantis overall is in a really tough position. They can't really be dawning on the last two very unfortunate maps. They got to go into Hacienda. Very different than the last two maps. Very different than the last two modes. And hopefully for them, a very different outcome.
Yeah, you got to hope for a lot there. You got to hope for that side of things. But you've got to think of the positives if you are Atlantis. What you are capable of in a long distance map, which Hacienda, as I explained before, when I thought it was going to be the control, it is a long distance fight. You can play these channels. Think about the top balcony. You can see here, it's a long range. You can just shoot your way down.
Hello.
And get it going, and this is
I like this. This is a nice,
such a great battle.
Yeah, I mean, just get rid of the objective, and then you got a nice wallpaper right there. You know? That's what that was. I think ZGL is in the business of producing some of the best teams from the pro-am scene and, you know, bumping them up the challengers, but no doubt about that. But when it comes to, you know, advancing to the PC wallpaper department, I think they're really trying to put their best foot forward there from that map 1, or excuse me, from that map 4. What a beautiful sight of Hacienda, the fountain just flowing through, right? And you can see the birds, the pelicans and the crows just flapping their wings as they graze by the drizzling fountain. It's a beautiful sight to behold nonetheless. But seriously, in all seriousness, unfortunately, as with coming as a, you know, COD League will arise, no pun intended for eRize, but COD unfortunate disconnects and ultimate confusion, for lack of a better term. I mean, we just heard our production department say, well, what? You know, what's going on? So at the end of the day, it is unfortunate. I hope we can really get back into the lobby, because something tells me, I'm pretty sure they're still playing. If it's been, you know, that long, it just something with the rendering. Okay. All right, so the players have restarted, as I've been told from our production booth. Shout out to our production booth. We'll give them a special shout out towards the end, but from the get-go, it's going to be that P1, like you said earlier, Hyper. So those AMEs are going to need to sit in those top windows and maintain control nonetheless. If you are brave enough to try to get on the objective and hold time, it's going to be those Jackals, those SMGs that are going to anchor themselves onto the point. Or maybe it's going to be 2-on-2. 2 from the outskirts in the windows, 2 anchoring onto the point, 1 AMES, 1 Jackal, and you know the rest.
Yeah, and I think 2-on-2 is going to be the safest bet with this style of map. You could play the risk by having a third Jackal in play, but realistically, I think the AMS is going to be the stronger of the 2 weapons on this map. But we can speculate, we can, you know, question about it, but off to the races, these fine gentlemen go.
They're not off to the races.
No, they're not happy with the lobby.
It's like the equivalent of, like, when you're playing track. You're running track, or, you know, the horse races, and they shoot off the starter pistol, and then everyone starts going, but there's a violation. They shoot it again. Everyone just like, what's going on? Everyone stops. So again, a little bit of a disruption there, unfortunately, but hopefully third time's a charm. Yeah, a little bit of a short break. Third time's a charm, but with that, I will take this opportunity, as they are, to cut to a very short break as the 2 teams try to get into their lobbies. eRize Gaming on a dominating 2-map streak. It's up to Atlantis to shut things down, take care of business like they did with map 1 right after this break. Well, as we said earlier before the break, ladies and gents, thank you so much for the patience for tuning in to what has been, in my opinion, despite the two maps being unfortunate for Atlantis, still a banger of a series. These two teams battling it out, and there's one thing that stays for sure. Atlantis might have lost those two maps that we saw, might have taken home the hard point, but they still are going to fight to the very end. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen, the stopping is over. Off to the races again, these fine gentlemen go, and off to Zeus, getting nice two pieces in the feed, along with Mental getting his nice two piece. That's 4 off for Atlantis, kicking off map number 4.
All of it. Both sides decided to fight for that north control, which is the most important off the get-go. That's the usual route I run. Okay, I may be silver, but you know, it's the knowledgeable run. Take control of north, have that control, because it's all about that C2 spawn. So the fight went through, allowed eRize to come down. Boom, easy start to kick things off. 24 and Mental on a 4 himself. Man, eRize are just coming in, guns blazing.
Yeah, I love also that rotation over to P2 shortly. We saw TK just play peekaboo there for a second with Atlantis and completely annihilate him from that staircase and not allow that early rotation to go through. 3 off again from Atlantis. I was saying it from the last hard point. We saw these breaks. We saw these squad wipes from eRize, but it wasn't that frequent. And now we're starting to see it frequent within the very early seconds of this map number 4. An unfortunate explosion from Drew. These cars have been exploding all series, Hyper. It's just tough luck for both sides. But still, control will remain blue as it does in the feed. Zeus picking up the pace yet again. And there it goes. There goes the infiltration onto the point. TK not able to do much. The reinforcements have arisen from eRize, and they will be able to clean up shop so nicely. Chef's kiss. Drew shooting, I'm not going to say shooting bodies, maybe shooting around the body, I should say politely, to signal that he's feeling it. He's feeling on top of the world right now, Hyper, as does all of eRize.
Twitch TOS. We're trying to keep it clean. We're trying to keep it clean.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
Atlantis had it under wraps. That P2, the break done perfectly, able to pick off eRize. But the problem is the pace. They took it a little too slow because what they didn't factor in on that break was the spawns that were just favoring eRize. They were able to immediately send 3 straight back.
What in the world?
And it just did not work for them. But we're getting a little free cam coming in. Damn, production level went up. And in doing so, eRize, once again, they're rotating well. They've got locks. And this is where Atlantis needs to burst onto the scene. I
gotta apologize for a second. I was not expecting that from eRize as well. Specifically, from that top window overlooking P1, Atlantis was sort of just getting ready to break through, and eRize completely plowing right through them in every which way. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what led to that. Like, oh my gosh, like we don't see that happen that often where eRize is not only able to anchor themselves onto the point, but win nearly every gunfight for the last 20 seconds or so of that. 3 off yet again for eRize. I mean, these guys, it's beyond luck at this time. They're just hitting everything. They know where to go. Spokes with a nice 2-piece with a nade, though. That's going to help tremendously for Atlantis. All they need, Hyper, is a spark. Atlantis needs a spark. They need to ignite themselves to a point where they're this massive flame of energy that is a little too overwhelming for eRize. And what a great way to start it than on this point as Dustin finds 2 and Spokes as well. Dustin and Spokes and Co. just completely fending off eRize Esports for a little bit here.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job. That nade opening things up, able to make a break, and then reinforcements helping them. But as soon as something goes their way, eRize has found this ability to break instantly. And they're coming in numbers. They're fighting against the Atlantis side 4v3. 2v1, always having one extra man to trade off, and eRize are using this. Oh, it's not a buddy system, but the crossfire system to help them out and to keep themselves on top.
New point is open up. We're back to P1, but this time, ooh, Hyper, the scoreline doesn't reflect that the first rotation that we saw. It was 0-0, obviously. First time we went to P1. Now 32-40. Atlantis Esports are in a very sticky situation here as Waterfall blowing through, and so are the shots from eRize. Mental, I told you before we got into this map, that Jackal player just sitting bravely onto the objective. Drew filling up shop when it matters most, but just a line of trades will follow right now with eRize getting that last lap. TK he himself is an incredibly lethal person with that aim S, so nobody from Atlantis will challenge him. Cinco winning one off rotation, Dustin finding the second. Spokes getting a nice trade. That's 3 off finally from off of eRize. Atlantis leading the charge here over to this P2. You got to wonder, though, is the damage too overbearing for Atlantis to chip away at the bit of a deficit right now? We'll see in the next couple of rotations.
Giving away 20 seconds at the final point, at the previous point, yeah, that's a lot to give away, but I understand why they wanted points. The trades go back and forth. In doing so, no one's able to take advantage as Dustin will gain control as the rotation and the reinforcements quickly come in. I'll quickly say, it's brave, it's bold, but they wanted to lock down that defense side. They wanted to have confidence for the first time in this match. In doing so, the first push against eRize has been a success, but now they're scattered. There's no control.
This got to be really frustrating too, Hyper, for Dustin. I mean, he did what he needed to do to allow Atlantis reinforcements to arrive on time, and hopefully when the last few seconds of scraps, but still eRize are able to break, and unfortunately Dustin's teammates Atlantis just letting him down and sort of letting that last two-piece go in vain. Of course, yeah, you got about 15 seconds or so of time, but at the end of the day, eRize still went right back to where they were. Now they're trickling on over to that 200-point mark, and Hyper, it feels like it's been ages since I've said this, but now Atlantis, your worry right now isn't just taking home the map and making a comeback in the series, but it's revoking your membership to that dreaded, not all-inclusive, not relaxing 100-point club.
Yeah, well, the mold grows high and the smell is stinky. The 100-point club is not somewhere you want to be. 30 seconds left on this point. It won't be one hit. We're going to have to see one more rotation. No, you actually could see it done here. I am mistaken.
No, it won't be one here. It won't be one here.
Now it won't. 100% it won't hit. And the rotation should come in. Dustin trying to go from the outside. That's cheeky. Cheeky indeed. The Hellstorm also opening things up, and finally a little bit of hope from the Atlantis side. But look how prepared eRize are. They're here, they're ready. Drew finds the remaining tile on point, and now they have themselves a P4 in their hands.
I just love the synergy as well from Atlantis, but specifically pointing out TK and Zeus. You know, TK plans one from that back corner, the corner that middle doorway there onto the objective that Zeus was coming out, and in turn, Zeus gets TK's back by killing Atlantis right off spawn there. So just beautiful synergy, beautiful display of watching over those angles when you need to do it, and time is ticking right now, Hyper. 2 seconds left on the objective. It's a bit anticlimactic this time around as eRize still flying onto the objective. You see the panic starting to set in for Atlantis, but they're just crawling, they're kicking, screaming, saying anything they possibly can to keep this objective alive, and even these scraps won't do much other than a little bit of a squeak over to eRize as they have 2 more seconds. They can rotate on through here for this objective, for the next rotation, and for the very next rotation if they really want to.
Yeah, they can go to P1. That's
It is going to be at P1.
Yeah, eRize are going to look to go P1, claim that last second, and let's see masterclass play come into effect. But
it's happening.
reality, it is happening, and I don't want to call it. I've called it way too early. But one more second needed for eRize to keep it contested, to keep it going. But finally, done and dusted. eRize 3-1 the series, and eRize just came alive that game.
Atlantis showed a lot of heart, a lot of passion throughout the entirety of the series, make no mistake, but where that actually translated to success in this map was middle to the end. And that's about it. At that point, it was already too late. They still, unfortunately for Atlantis, whether you like it or not, you got yourself a hotel room to stay at the 100-point club, non-spa and non-resort.
GG, ladies.
It just took a little too long
GG,
to get things going, to get the accolades in, to kick into 4-wheel drive. It was promising from that map 1 hard point, but we go to map 4, very different story. eRize taking a little bit of time here to get started in the series. Will close things out in what was a very disappointing and unfortunate fashion for Atlantis. And yeah, I mean, that's the best way you can possibly put it. It is not something you want to see ending, game number 1 and week number 1 at all. They had the passion, they had the play. I mean, they didn't none of their players put their controller down unlike what I've seen in a lot of the semi-professional and collegiate COD scene, what players will do. That temper tantrum certainly wasn't there, so that's something to look at. These guys are motivated to perfect their craft, but at the end of the day, you can have the team spirit, you can be excited to play the game, but if you're not there with the kills, you're not winning the engagements, you're not coordinated with your team, you're gonna lose those maps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to kind of make a very quick, brief point onto that hard point we just watched. And it was very much the smoothness that came from eRize. They were able to make good holds with initial breaks with 3 people and then have that control. Then they just slowly tickled away 1 player at a time as the time slowly ticked down. And if there was any presence or any engagement that did come onto point in that mid points, they re-added players. But the whole premise is that they were spreading themselves out slowly to cover the 3 channels, to get themselves down south, to get themselves up north, where they needed accordingly. So the rotation started to smoothly come in play. And I love to see that from eRize, and it's definitely very well managed. And kudos to the coach for drilling that mindset into this team, because it felt brilliant. And the only time we saw a true disruption was P2 second rotation, where we saw the entirety of Atlantis stack onto the point, sacrificing 20 seconds of P1 and going, right, we're locking it down, we're gonna make our stand. And it worked because they had time to set themselves up, rather than having a slowly trickling eRize adding strength over to the points.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The stress was there for Atlantis. I mean, they had some recoil from eRize in that map 1, and them being able to handle it and not only just win the map but also win by just under 50 told me that these guys can dish it and take it as well. And that's sort of what I thought would be the reflected for the rest of the series, but it was that search and destroy. And Wise Man once told me, I nearly say this every time we are in these situations, COD is 80% or 20% mechanics, 80% mindset, knowledge, and mental health, and mental capacity, if you will. And you got to question, I know it's not always the best to theorize what's going on, what could have been and what should have been, but unfortunate, devastating search and destroy, if you will, could have very well brought the team camaraderie down, or it could have not done much to it at all, regardless of the fact, for Atlantis. But it's the elites. I mean, these are the best of the best that that ZGL has on their stages. So that's all they have. That's all they really can really put out at the end of the day. So Atlantis back to a long, drawn out drawing board. Blueprint stage, if you will, you go, but you still got to appreciate the excitement, the contentment, the confidence, the eagerness to get into their first map of the week for the elite play. Tells me that these guys won't be bowing out just yet. They will be sticking around. And with an opponent like eRize showing them up, I think, Hyper, these guys are going to take a couple of things, learn it, and apply to be that much better next time they play.
Oh, 100%. They will definitely take what they've learned, bring it to the table. But I believe that is all for today. No more matches confirmed. We're not going to have one at 9? Question, producer?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Yeah,
no matches.
Yeah,
no
so
matches.
To our knowledge, we won't be having a match at 9, but obviously, as members of the community, keep checking out the ZGL Instagram or the ZGL Twitter to see if that does change in the next couple of minutes. But as Hyper was saying there, that is going to be it from him and I. We appreciate all the production, all the casting, all the viewers at home, you guys from all of our different platforms we have been streaming at, for the consistent support. It means so much to the players. It means so much to us as the casters, and it means so much more to the viewers all across the board. So thank you for that. Thank you, Tricky Dot, for being our producer today. Rollo, amongst others, for our moderation and our league management. And from Hyper and I, it is only goodbye from now. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all very, very soon.